What is going on? Good afternoon, everybody. Please excuse my disgusting driveway. We have here my 2019 Honda Civic Type R, and we have ordered some new pieces that have come in finally. Contacted the guys at United Speed Racing. We were looking for some underhood temperature management solutions. As you can see, I had previously used some of this reflective gold heat tape on my inlet pipe to try to fight some of the heat on my intake air temps, as well as I previously installed the United Speed Racing turbo blanket to cover my turbocharger after I removed the factory heat shield and installed the catless United Speed Racing downpipe, which is heat wrapped, but I also got a big old blanket to wrap around that as well. So we're gonna have a new heat blanket that I have ordered here for PTP turbo blankets. I got this from United Speed Racing, as well as a custom fit downpipe blanket for this United Speed Racing downpipe. I'm gonna put this custom downpipe blanket right over the top of that lava heat wrap, and I'm gonna be all kinds of toasty cozy in here. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna install this inlet pipe cover, and what it is, it looks like it just wraps around and attaches to itself with Velcro. So I don't even have to use metal laces or springs or anything like that. And it's gonna go right around this inlet pipe here. And the only cutout that doesn't have slip spots for it are these three holes. So those correspond here, here. If you look around right here, this bolt right here where my finger is, that holds this bracket onto the side of the pipe. So we'll remove this bolt, and this bolt. These are 10mm bolts. They'll come out, and we'll try to wrap these around and see how it fits. Alright, we've gone ahead and snapped these bolts loose a little bit. I'll go ahead and warn you, I tried to use my cheap little 10mm wrench on this right here, and it was so tight I nearly rounded the top of the bolt off. So I had to switch over to my 10mm deep socket on socket wrench here. I've already loosened all of these just enough to get them loose. And here, spin them out. There's slightly different than the other two. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, nice and loose there. Nice, well, pretty loose here. It's still rigid mounted down here. Further down, there's another 10 I can take loose. Might make my life a little easier putting this blanket on just to take this one more bolt out. So why don't we go ahead and do that while we've already got our socket and wrench going. I'll bring the camera over in a second and show you. Okay, so if you look, so I pointed out this bolt that I removed right here on this bracket so that I could get the access for the blanket. But it's rigid mounted on this channel here. It goes down, and if you follow it down, you'll see another 10mm bolt just like the one up here, down there, right below where my finger is pointing. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but so we will go ahead and get that one out of there. Ooh, a little bit sunny. Let's see if we can get that last one out of there. Socket on there. See if we can turn it. sometimes just a little bit of extra headache and effort. Can save you some fight down the road. I'm just wedging my hands down here so I can spin this socket with my fingers. I'm getting this bottom bolt out of this little channel bracket for the wire harness and vacuum hoses here. As you can see, it's the same type of bolt as the one that came out the top here and the bottom there. Now, as you can see, I've got lots of wiggle room there on my bracket, lots of wiggle room here on my bracket. My blanket should just fall right into place when I go to put it in. So let's get the camera set here. Alright. So it recommends to, handle this with gloves. I don't always take recommendations, but if you're going to do this at home, you might want to use gloves, because there is some of the thread in here that is wire thread, and it pokes through in some of the places, and it can poke you in the fingers, and it hurts. But so we're gonna, maybe a little tight with the turbo blanket underneath there. I'm not gonna lie, I may have to take this inlet pipe loose after all. That appears to be the way. So we are gonna stop right there, back up, and take a look at what we're gonna do next. So if you look right here, I've got two more 10mm bolts that hold this lower hose bracket to this inlet pipe. I'm going to take these two 10s loose so that this is off of here. I'm going to loosen my clamp here to my intake. I'm going to come over here. We look, and it would appear that now that we've already gotten these items loose, all that is left is there are two 12mm bolts where the inlet pipe meets the housing for the turbo down here. You can see one of them real easy. The sunlight in this angle is making it difficult to get the camera down where you can see things. So there's a 12mm bolt straight back here, and there's another one just like it. You probably won't be able to see it, but it is underneath in here, underneath where this bolt went on this bracket, where this vacuum hose is coming by, straight underneath there, there's another 12mm bolt. So we'll take these two 12s out that are down here, these two 10s out that are up here, loosen this clamp, and we should be able to lift our inlet pipe right out. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these things, and we'll get right back. Okay, so what I'm here to show you today, folks, is just how easy it can be. So I've removed the two 10mm bolts that went right here, the two 10mm bolts that went right here, the two 10mm bolts that attached this bracket right there, and there's another one further down in the recess there. Well, you can see it. When I removed those, then I backed out these two 12s at the bottom and loosened this single hose clamp here. Now, this is just how easy it is to remove the charge pipe on your Civic Type R. And it's not so easy you can do it with one hand necessarily. So, let's get my two hands free and see if we can get this thing out. Pull it straight back so I can clear my tape pipe. That sounded like a socket falling. get this to clear my intake pipe. Should just pop right out. Now, I didn't get the 12s down here all the way out. I'm kind of lifting them out as I go, so I'm being careful. Trying not to drop my 12s. Just check. Looks like I pulled out of that bracket. So I guess there was a 10mm I should have removed there. Well, goes to show, if you miss it, it won't stop you, and you can always go back. There we have our removed inlet pipe. And I'm about to now take my 12mm bolts out of here before I lose them. And then I'm not going to make you watch me go fishing for the extension in the 12mm that went for a dive. I'm going to go try to retrieve that and we'll be back. Okay folks, we're back. I managed to, where's Waldo my 12 in extension? It had gone way down the side. I had to go underneath and undo a couple of clips and pull a panel back and reach. It wasn't fun. But we're back. I have my inlet pipe here, and I am not going to remove this gold tape when I put the blanket on. I think it's going to leave a nasty mess if I try to take it off. I managed to make it a somewhat pretty smooth job, I feel, but we're going to cover that up because we've got the good stuff now. So this should line up right with where those two bolt holes are going to fit on right there, and where our 10mm on that side bracket goes on right there. All right. Once those are lined up, I'm going to set it down. We're going to cinch this together. See how she fits. Feels pretty snug, just, you know, off the bat. Okay, so it's only going to cover up to that freeze plug right there. I'm just trying to make sure that this goes on nice and tight. Make sure all of my bolt holes match all of my cutouts there. I still got to go back and fix this rubber mount here. All of my bolt holes match up there. So I'm going to flip it over and do this last piece. Now mind you, the whole reason we pulled this inlet pipe all the way out was to get this to wrap underneath and tuck tight and fit well. I wasn't going to have enough clearance where the turbo blanket is here on the turbo and where this sits on top. When I drop this back down, it's just going to be blanket on blanket. It's going to be really, really tight in there. So now comes the fun part of wrestling this back in. I'm going to try to catch this on camera, but if it cuts abruptly, you'll know I was unsuccessful. I'm going to make sure my inlet pipe gasket was down there. You want to make sure you put this back in place. It's got a couple of little tabs to line up to hold it onto your inlet pipe here while you put it down in there. And I'm going to try to do that without knocking it back off or breaking anything else. Oh wait. Stop right there. I forgot to fix the rubber mount. It's just a 10mm bolt here going through a metal collar with a piece of rubber that will fit onto this inlet pipe. But I managed to pull it out, and it doesn't look like I destroyed it, but to put it back on, you actually have to pull the metal sleeve out of the rubber. Yeah, it's got a little bit marred up. And then you just squeeze it back into place there, and then slide your metal collar back in, and you're ready to rock and roll. Alright. Now, as I was saying, notice I'm not just forcing this down in, I'm slowly pushing, feeling around, making sure I'm not pinching any hoses or grabbing any wires. Make sure the top piece is clear, so make sure we don't pinch our hoses or get our pipes caught behind or underneath. Line up our intake into our intake boot as we're going back together. Twist, slow pull. I'm just making sure that the blanket isn't catching on anything or snagging anywhere. And then I'm gonna work the pipe back into my intake boot there. Dropped right in like a glove. Make sure my rubber mount meets up. See, that just dropped right back where it goes. And when you're in place, it all just falls in like that's where it wants to live. So that was our wrapped inlet pipe back into position. And let's see, does it look like? Yeah, it looks like. Looks like my inlet pipe gasket is in place too. So now I'm just going to put some bolts back in, tighten some things down, and we'll take a look at the finished product. Alright folks, we are back, and at this point we are just about finished. We have all of our bolts in place. I want to go ahead and point out that getting the bottom bolt into the pipe, or the bottom bracket down here, as well as the bottom 12 into the inlet pipe without a magnet is a bit of a pain in the tail, and I had to go on a few fishing trips to find the bolt that dropped down into the pan a couple times while I was trying to get it started, so be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and tighten all the bolts. So there are two 12s down here that we talked about on the inlet pipe itself. And there's one more down here. You know what I did. Back. Okay, one thing to note. You cannot tighten the lower 12 on this inlet pipe if you put the lower 10 back in place on this little harness bracket first. So I had to actually go and take that bolt back out while I was loosening it up. So we'll put that back down in there, and we tighten up those two 12s. Here we tighten our 10s, just making sure they are snug first, and go back. So there, snug. You don't want to put too terribly much torque on these little 10s. Tighten down those, and then our clamp on our intake boot. Just make sure we Trying to get that clamp nice and straight. So I'm gonna tighten that down. Everything is nice and straight. That's it, folks. Tighten down our tins and our PTP inlet blanket is installed. Now we just got to get this downpipe blanket in, but I'm going to do that later. Thanks for watching.